Have you finished the housework and laundry? I won't tolerate slacking off just because of a broken bone.
The moment I answered my husband's call, his angry voice came through. This is how he often calls to check if I'm not taking a break despite my injury. I'm having guests over right now. I'm doing the housework properly. Where are you? That last question triggered his anger.
Where I am is none of your business. Don't say unnecessary things. You ugly.
As usual, I had the speaker on, so his yelling echoed through the room. Hearing that, the guest's face twisted in anger. As a result, my husband faced the consequences. I'm Kelly. At 52, I feel like I get tired very easily. My late mother used to say, "You feel more tired after 50, and now I truly feel that way. My only daughter, Miranda, became independent 3 years ago, so I thought I would finally have some time for myself, but life doesn't go as planned. Now, my husband Mark's mother, who is 7 years older than me, has collapsed and needs care. Make sure mom isn't inconvenienced." What? You're going to help take care of her too, right?
Huh? Taking care of parents is the wife's duty. I'm too busy with work.
Even though it's his own parent, my husband acted indifferent. But I kind of expected this. After all, he had always dumped all the childcare and housework on me since we were young. However, he seemed to love our daughter and would take care of her if asked, but only to spoil her and take all the credit. Even so, he did his job well, and I resigned myself to thinking that every family is like this. Looking back now, I should have voiced my opinions clearly. Maybe then things wouldn't have turned out like this. Mark, who was always a domineering husband, started to belittle me even more as he got older.
Other wives are doing much better. You're not even a proper woman. Even though you're being supported, you don't appreciate me. Show more respect.
His complaints were always vague, and I couldn't figure out what exactly I was doing wrong. Be more specific. What should I be mindful of?
You don't even know that. Figure it out yourself.
I couldn't agree with him, but I knew if I argued back, my husband would get furious, and we'd end up fighting. So, I kept quiet. I didn't want my daughter to see her parents fighting. You see, my parents were always arguing. They ended up divorcing when I was in elementary school, and the painful memories still haunt me. Even though my husband always talked as if he was the only one working, saying I'm the one providing, I had a job too. I worked full-time at a local grocery store. I had been there for a long time, and I got along well with my coworkers. It was a comfortable place. The store manager trusted me so much that I was in charge of overseeing the employees. Sure, my salary was lower and there were no promotions compared to my husband, who worked for a big company, but I took pride in my work. However, he never acknowledged that.
Your job doesn't even count as work. Well, it's because you're not capable enough to get a better paying job. That's a terrible thing to say. Shut up. Don't forget, we live off my salary.
My husband's domineering attitude only grew as I didn't talk back. I was treated like a housemaid. The only things that saved me were my daughter's growth and my job. But after she graduated from college, got a job, and moved out, my mother-in-law collapsed and needed care. So, I had to quit the job I loved. Some might say I should just ignore my cold-hearted husband's parents, but my in-laws, who lived nearby, were kind and warm to me. Many people have trouble with their in-laws, but I never had such issues. In fact, my mother-in-law would often say, "Mark is selfish, so I'm sure Kelly has a hard time." I'm sorry. It's okay, Mom. Mark is working hard. Of course, I couldn't complain about my husband to them, so that's what I said. My father-in-law was also kind, but had a bad back and couldn't do much. I'm sorry we rely on you so much, Kelly. You're such a kind daughter-in-law. I'm grateful. Thank you. No, I'm the one who should be thankful for how kind you both are. They always had kind words for me as I went to take care of them. Not once has Mark ever said a kind word to me. Doing housework and childcare was taken for granted, more than that.
Today's meal is so plain. Can't you make something more elaborate? Ugly and a bad cook. I really failed in choosing a wife.
My husband was always complaining and looking down on me. Even though I was busy visiting my in-laws, their kindness was a balm for my soul. However, about a year after starting the caregiving, my mother-in-law passed away. Despite my grief, I continued to help my father-in-law with the housework. My husband's attitude worsened, and his insults grew more vicious. He'd suddenly slam the table in anger or spit out the food I worked hard to prepare. "Why do you always act like this?"
Just looking at your face makes me sick. Being with you just ruins my mood, so I'm eating out.
He wouldn't discuss anything and lashed out whenever something displeased him. He had always been cold to me, but I thought he was just getting more stubborn with age. I had no idea what was really behind his awful behavior. One day, I finally snapped and glared back at him. "Enough. Why do you say such horrible things? Now that Mom doesn't need care, it's obvious why you're going to my family's house." "What do you mean? You're after Dad's inheritance, aren't you?" I was stunned that he would think such a thing.
Don't misunderstand. I'm helping because your father can't manage alone with his bad back.
Yeah, sure. But let me tell you, all of Dad's money and his soon-to-be retirement payout are mine. You won't get a cent. What? I was too shocked to even respond. After that, our conversations dwindled to almost nothing, and we lived like mere housemates. While I was wondering what to do next, my daughter frequently contacted me, worried about my broken bone. That's when she told me something. So, that's what was going on. I found several crumpled envelopes at the bottom of the trash can, and their contents shocked me to my core. Though I was seething inside, I decided it wasn't the right time to confront him and kept my feelings bottled up. As my husband neared retirement, he came home late and spent his days off grooming himself in front of the mirror and humming as he left the house. In hindsight, his suspicious behavior was obvious, but I no longer cared about him enough to be bothered. I was thinking about divorce, but I couldn't abandon my father-in-law. Mark would never take care of his father. I've endured this long, so I'll just hang on a little longer. While thinking this, I was pushing myself to the edge. I became mentally strained and got tired more easily. One day, perhaps from overexertion, I fell while hanging laundry in the yard. A sharp pain shot through my arm, and a visit to the hospital confirmed a broken left arm. It wasn't bad enough to require hospitalization, but I couldn't manage the housework. What am I gonna do now? This is bad. Despite this, my husband not only refused to help but also insisted that I must continue doing housework. "I've tried my best as your wife. Can't you show a little compassion at times like this?"
Huh? What kind of spoiled nonsense is that? Don't forget that you've lived comfortably all this time thanks to me.
There was no way I could live the rest of my life with this man. Maybe it's time to seriously consider ending our marriage. Even while thinking this, I couldn't bring myself to ask for a divorce. I was most worried about my father-in-law, so I contacted him to let him know I might not be able to visit for a while. "I'm fine, but Kelly, are you okay? Your arm must hurt. Take your time to heal." My father-in-law was as kind as ever. Compared to him, my husband was so cold. I was almost in tears from my father-in-law's kind words, and I couldn't find the right words to respond. Then something decisive happened. That day, my husband, despite having a day off, was getting ready to go out. "Where are you going?"
Shut up. More importantly, make sure all the laundry and cleaning are done by the time I get back in the evening. And cook a meat dish for dinner. Got it?
Before I could respond, Mark slammed the front door and left quickly. With a heavy heart, I was struggling to do the housework with just my right arm when the doorbell rang, and an unexpected visitor arrived. While I was talking to the visitor, my husband called.
Have you finished the housework and laundry? I won't tolerate slacking off just because of a broken bone.
As usual, I had the speaker on, so my husband's abusive words echoed from the phone.
Useless good for nothing. Don't forget you're living off my earnings. If the housework isn't done by the time I get home, I'll beat you up.
Ever since I got injured, my husband had been making such calls frequently. So, for me, it was nothing new. However, I was embarrassed that my visitor had to hear my husband's cruel words. Someone's here to see me right now. I'm doing the housework. Anyway, where are you?
Where I am and what I'm doing is none of your business. Don't say unnecessary things, you ugly.
At that moment, the visitor suddenly grabbed my phone and yelled at my husband. Do you always treat Kelly like this? Huh? Who are you?
You idiot. Don't you recognize your own father's voice? Dad.
Yes, the visitor was my father-in-law. He had sensed something was wrong when I contacted him and came to check on me. Hearing Mark's words, he angrily shouted into the phone.
Come home immediately. Got it? What? Now? But No excuses.
Without waiting for my husband's response, my father-in-law hung up the phone. Then, with a look of fury directed at Mark, he bowed deeply to me. I'm truly sorry, Kelly. I never thought Mark would turn out to be such a disgrace. You haven't done anything wrong. Please. It might sound strange coming from me, but Kelly, you should think about your own happiness and find freedom from now on. I had almost given up on my husband, but my father-in-law's words gave me courage. He looked me firmly in the eye. I'll move to a facility and live freely, so don't worry about me. But then you'd have to leave the home you're familiar with.
I can't let you suffer anymore.
I tried to persuade him to reconsider several times, but his resolve was firm. I can't bear this any longer. I feel too guilty towards you, Kelly. Consider this my one and only wish, please divorce Mark. After being asked repeatedly, I finally made up my mind to cut ties with my husband. 30 minutes later, Mark rushed back home, looking flustered. Where's Dad? He's not here? He told me to come back. Oh, were you in the middle of having fun with your young girlfriend? Huh? What are you talking about? He tried to play dumb, but I didn't back down. Her name is Chris, right? You don't do anything at home, but at her place, you do the cleaning, laundry, and cooking, don't you? What? How do you know that? Mark looked puzzled, so I showed him the screen of my smartphone. Seeing it, his eyes widened in shock, and he tried to snatch the phone from me. You've been snooping around on me, haven't you? It wasn't me. Mirabelle found it. My husband never imagined his own daughter would discover his affair on social media. He was quite shocked. Sweat started to bead on his forehead as he realized Mirabelle knew. When my daughter called to check on me after my injury, she shared this discovery. She sent me photos from the other woman's social media, pointing out the hair, clothes, and watch that were clearly her father's. You must have told Mirabelle to spy on me, didn't you? Don't misunderstand. Mirabelle found it by chance while looking through her friend's social media. In this age when anyone can see strangers' posts, he must not have considered this possibility. The posts by his mistress included captions like "Met this wonderful older guy at a bar," with Mark's grinning profile prominently featured. There were also videos of him busily doing housework at the young woman's place. Despite being recorded so much, my husband must have believed he wouldn't be caught. After seeing the photos of Mark with his mistress, I decided to divorce him once things settled with my father-in-law's care. Honestly, seeing him humming and grooming his hair struck me as so ridiculous I almost burst out laughing. Mirabelle said she never wants to see you again. She's blocking your contact. What? No way. Frantically, he pulled out his phone and tried to call our daughter, but the call wouldn't even go through. I didn't want Mirabelle to find out. Of course not. You never did anything around the house, but you did take care of Mirabelle. Now even the daughter you cherished hates you. How pathetic. Well, you brought this on yourself. Even after hearing my words, Mark kept dialing Mirabelle's number, looking more pathetic and pitiful by the second. To make him face reality, I picked up my phone. Hey, Mirabelle. I've decided to divorce your father. Mark, desperate, tried to interject, Mirabelle, it's a misunderstanding. Through the speaker, we heard her shouting, I'll never forgive you for betraying Mom. You disgust me. At that moment, Mark's shoulders sagged, and he hung his head. But after all the suffering he put me through, I wasn't going to let him off that easily. After telling my daughter, I'll call you back later, I ended the call and looked my husband straight in the eye. Not only are you cheating, but it looks like you've been spending a lot on Chris. What? How do you know that? I found this. It's over $100,000. Were you buying her expensive bags and branded accessories? I handed him the demand letters from the finance company that I found in the trash. My husband, who hadn't realized I knew, started shaking. When I found those letters, I figured he was spending on his mistress and planned to cover the debt with his retirement money, so I decided to confront him. Yeah, so what? What's wrong with buying designers' brand bags and accessories for the woman I love? As long as you can pay off the debt yourself, I don't care. My husband, frustrated, gritted his teeth and stepped closer to me.
If you know everything, then this makes it easier. I'm gonna marry my soulmate. Goodbye, you ugly old hag. Serves you right.
And? Is there anything else you want to say?
I'm not giving you my retirement money. And the family assets are mine. You're leaving this house with nothing.
Even though he was cheating, my husband's selfish justifications and cruel words left me so astonished that I was at a loss for words. Mark puffed out his chest, looking victorious. At that moment, the door to the next room burst open with a loud bang.
That's enough, Mark.
What? Dad? What are you doing here? I thought you left. My father-in-law stormed in, furious. He stayed in the next room to see how you treat me and hear what you say to me. But his shoes weren't at the entrance. He hid his shoes so you wouldn't notice. He heard everything you said to me. Now your true colors are revealed.
You dirty woman. How dare you?
My husband tried to grab me, but my father-in-law quickly seized his arm.
Ow! Dad, that hurts. Let go. Shut up.
I had never seen my father-in-law this angry before. Despite his usual frailty, he moved swiftly to stand between us. Even when my husband tried to pull his arm away, my father-in-law's grip didn't budge. His strength surprised me, and I was left speechless.
You're not getting any of the assets. I'm using my money to move into a facility. The rest will be given to Kelly as a living inheritance. What? Are you kidding me? You're favoring her over your own son?
Mark, panicked, looked wide-eyed, sweat pouring from his forehead. However, my father-in-law ignored his own son and gave him a cold look. Kelly's the one who took care of your late mother and me all this time. To us, she's like a daughter. What about me? What's going to happen to me?
You didn't even visit your mother when she wanted to see you. You're only after my money, you're the outsider here.
No. Abandoned by his father, Mark couldn't do anything. He turned to me with a pitiful look, begging. The truth is, my retirement money is going to pay off my debts. I was counting on Dad's inheritance. Kelly, please help me. Why should I? We've been married for so long. I couldn't believe he was saying this now. I was sick of looking at his face. Seeing someone as selfish as you makes me sick. I want a divorce. Wait, let's talk this over. I glared at him and shook my head firmly. I don't even want to look at you. Oh, and I'll be asking for alimony, so be prepared.
I don't have any money, please help me.
Get your dear Chris to help you. I'm done. Mark collapsed on the spot, looking pathetic, while my father-in-law and I watched him coldly. I'll leave as you wish. This is our final goodbye. Farewell. I grabbed my packed bags and left the house with my father-in-law before my husband could return. Once outside, my father-in-law put his hand on his back and whispered, "Ouch, ouch." "What's wrong?" "Oh, I might have hurt my back when I stepped in between you and Mark earlier. And I used all my strength to grab Mark's arm." "How pathetic. You were brave to help me. I'll get you a heat pack later." After tending to my father-in-law at his place, I stayed with my daughter. Later, I divorced my husband and demanded $60,000 in alimony from him and $40,000 from Chris. Mark continued living in our house, so I received a cash settlement according to the division of assets. Our savings were split, but his share went to paying my alimony, and his debts were cleared with his retirement money, leaving him with nothing. He hoped Chris would support him, but when the money ran out, she quickly dumped him. Chris's parents paid her alimony to me, but they disowned her. Mark now gets by on temporary and part-time jobs, and without experience in housework, his place soon became a garbage dump, leading to complaints from the neighbors. I visit my father-in-law frequently at his facility, where he's made friends and seems happy. As for me, I used the money my father-in-law gave me to buy a small house in the suburbs, filled the garden with flowers, and got a puppy. I went back to work at the grocery store, where my coworkers welcomed me back, and I'm enjoying peaceful and refreshing days. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm a 30-year-old part-time housewife. We've been married for 5 years, and we finally have a child on the way. It wasn't easy getting here. Hey, Elizabeth. Are you having trouble getting pregnant? I got tested, but it's not that. The doctor said we just need to time it right. Oh, I see. I thought you were infertile and I wouldn't get any grandkids. No, it's not like that, so don't worry. I was planning to kick you out if you were infertile. You don't have to worry about that. In the end, it was just a matter of timing, and we didn't need fertility treatments. My mother-in-law lives within a 5-minute walk and visits us almost every day. My husband, David, says it's reassuring to have my parents close by in case anything happens, but I find it far from reassuring. When the baby is born, I'm sure she'll be so involved in raising it that she won't even notice me. I can't stand that. But since we've already bought a house, there's nothing I can do, so I told David that I wanted to stay at my parents' place, about a 40-minute drive away, for a while after the birth, and he understood. I think I'll stay at my parents' place for a bit after the baby's born. Yeah, that sounds good. You should get some rest. They say giving birth is like being in a car accident, so take it easy and come back when you're feeling better. You sure know a lot about this. Well, it's your first time giving birth, so I did some research. That's sweet. You're gonna be a great dad. Of course. I'm a great dad already. He seemed proud, but something about his reaction bothered me. He looked really happy when I said I'd stay at my parents' place. I appreciated his concern and his research, but I couldn't stop thinking about his expression. I didn't say anything at the time and just focused on getting ready for the birth. 2 weeks before my due date, I headed to my parents' house. David drove me there, saying, "I'll keep in touch," and left quickly without even saying goodbye to my parents. I thought it was strange he didn't say anything, but David's always been a bit awkward and not very close with my family. Being at my parents' house, I could relax more than at home. It was amazing how peaceful it was without my mother-in-law constantly dropping by. 2 weeks later, 2 days before my due date, I went into labor. Hey, David. My contractions have started. My water hasn't broken yet, so I'm not at the hospital. The contractions are getting closer together. If you want to be there for the birth, you should come now. Be there for the birth? Did we plan that? What? We talked about you being there. Did we? I'm busy, so I can't make it. Oh, sorry, my boss is calling. Gotta go. And he hung up. No way, he said he'd be there for the birth. I felt a bit anxious about giving birth alone. But my mom said she would be with me, which made me feel a little better. 10 hours later, my first child, a daughter, was born. She was so adorable, I was overwhelmed with happiness. I sent David a photo and told him that she was born safely. "Oh, good," was all he said. I was hoping for a "you did great" or "good job" or even a loving comment like "she's so cute," but there was nothing. He didn't visit me at the hospital even once, and I was discharged without seeing him. Even after I told him I was back at my parents' place, I didn't hear from him, and a month passed, and David still hadn't come to see our baby. Does he not care about his own child? I wondered, feeling anxious. After giving birth, I wasn't in the best health, so I couldn't go back home, and before I knew it, my daughter was already 3 months old. David hadn't come to see us even once. I kept sending him photos, and sometimes he'd say, "Well, she's cute," but there was never a message filled with love. I didn't feel any affection from him, not just for our baby but for me too. Doesn't he want to see us? Did he stop loving me during the pregnancy? However, it might just be because it's a busy time at work. That's the only way I could think about it. But my mom thought differently. She suggested we go back home because it was strange that David hadn't visited at all. I was feeling a bit better, and maybe David was excited to see our daughter growing up. So, I decided to surprise him by going home. My mom offered to drive us, and I was excited on the way. My parents were encouraging me, saying he'd be happy to see us, and I started to believe them. But when we got home, a strange woman answered the door. "Who are you?" Who are you?" When I showed my confusion, she seemed to realize who I was. She looked at me and my baby several times before quickly going back inside. Then David rushed to the door. "What are you doing here all of a sudden? Why are you mad that I came home? Who is that woman?" "Who?" "Never mind. I'll find out myself." I handed my daughter to my mom and hurried into the living room. There I found a 2-year-old boy and the woman who had answered the door, living comfortably as if it was their home. What's going on here? And what's with this room? I get that there are more baby things, but they're definitely for a boy, right? Our baby is a girl. Yeah, I know that. So? Explain this to me right now. Well, there's no point hiding it now. I was hoping you'd just stay at your parents' place. I'm living here with Lillian and our son now. So, there's no place for you and the baby here. What? What are you talking about? And that boy, is he your son? Yeah, he's my son with Lillian. You could call him my illegitimate child. So, that's why you knew so much about childbirth? Exactly. I couldn't be there for Lillian when she gave birth, so I'm happy we can live together now. So, you need to leave. Oh, I see. I'll leave then. Wow, that was easy. I thought you'd refuse to divorce, and I've been putting up with this. Honestly, I wanted to divorce you myself. Great. Now we can live happily here, and you can enjoy being a poor single mom. Good luck. Living in this mansion is amazing. Leaving the two of them celebrating, I returned to my mom. She was worried about me, but I just told her we needed to get back to the car where my dad was waiting. When I told my parents the truth, my dad was furious, but I calmed him down and asked him to take us back to their house. After leaving my daughter with my parents, I went straight to a private investigator to gather evidence of David and Lillian's affair. Since they were living together, we quickly collected plenty of proof, and talking to people around them provided even more information. Lillian was a colleague of David. They met when David was her mentor, and they often spent time together. Lillian mistakenly believed that David, who was in charge of personnel development, was climbing the corporate ladder and bragged to people. I poked holes in the condoms to get pregnant and forced David to take responsibility. Around the time I went to my parents' house to give birth, Lillian quit her job and stopped coming to work. She must have planned to rely on David. After gathering the evidence, I contacted David. I'm coming home to start the divorce process. finally ready for the divorce? We'll start our marriage process right after.
I don't care about that. How's Saturday?
Got it. So, I went back home on the weekend to discuss the divorce. When I walked in, my mother-in-law was there, grinning.
Oh, so you're getting divorced. That's too bad. But I'm happy with my new daughter-in-law and grandchild.
Good for you. You're so cold. Can't you at least look a little sad?
Why should I?
I'm not sad. David chimed in, too bad, our kid is cuter. But since Lillian's kid was born first, we have to prioritize him.
You don't love either of the kids, do you?
Kids are noisy. I never liked them. They just happened. And now, I realize they're not that cute.
You're unbelievable. I'm glad we're getting divorced.
I don't care what you say. I have a young, cute wife now, and my mom loves her.
Yes. She's much better than you.
Great. Can we discuss the divorce now? I brought the papers, so please sign them. I'll file them. You're surprisingly cooperative. Are you sure you'll file them? Of course. I want this divorce. Can't trust you. Mom, could you be quiet now?
Oh, you're really unbearable.
Anyway, here are the documents for the alimony and child support payments. What? Alimony? Of course. You cheated, so you owe me alimony. And since you acknowledged the child, you're obligated to pay child support. What? I'm not seeing the kid, so I'm not paying support. You're really clueless, aren't you? Even if you don't see the child, you still have to pay child support. You're such a poor, stingy woman. Fine, I'll pay both alimony and child support. Paying alimony should be no problem for you, right? Both of them looked oddly confident. Anyway, I've sent certified copies of the documents to both your company and your parents' house, so please check them.
What? Why did you send them to my parents' house? And I'm not paying any alimony. Why do you think you're exempt? You're also responsible.
Why should I be? I'm a woman. Talking to someone as dumb as you is a waste of time. I'll take all my belongings now.
Do whatever you want. Just hurry up and leave.
All right, thanks. I called the movers who were waiting outside and had them come in.
Hey, wait a minute. That stuff belongs to us.
No, I brought this from my apartment before we got married. Movers, please take the TV, microwave, and fridge. Just leave the contents wherever. I had already explained the situation to the movers, so they placed the fridge's contents on the floor. I burst out laughing at the sight. The dresser and table are mine too. The sofa and bed are also mine, but they're dirty, so could you dispose of them? I'll cover the disposal fee. I calmly instructed them, and they took everything.
Wait a minute. We can't live without that stuff.
Not my problem.
This is what divorce means.
But what about dividing the assets? There's quite a bit, right? You have this house, isn't that enough? You're supposedly rich, right? By the way, Lillian quit her job, didn't she? Yes, but unlike you, I'm loved by David, and he promised to support our family. He said I could be a stay-at-home mom. Good for you. If you're so wealthy, you can buy new furniture and appliances. Don't you hate using stuff your ex-wife bought? Well, of course. I was thinking about that, right, David? Let's just buy everything new. Yeah, that makes sense. What a gullible man. I took my personal bank account and the joint savings we had accumulated. Though there wasn't much in the joint account, I didn't really care. David was grumbling, but Lillian said, "Let's just get rid of that woman and build a happy home together." She's pathetic. Yeah, you're right. I went through my lawyer to finalize everything before they could change their minds. I didn't want to deal with any more complaints. And I couldn't risk them changing their minds. I hurried to finalize the divorce and submitted the documents. I was finally single. I could live with my adorable daughter. Nothing made me happier. After everything settled down, I moved out of my parents' house and started living with my daughter. A little while later, David contacted me. Hey. Why did you take my bank book?
I didn't take your bank book. I only have mine and our joint account. Besides, there was only about $1,000 in the joint account. What's the big deal?
Then where's my bank book?
I don't know. Why does it matter?
I can't pay the mortgage and utility bills. I got a notice saying the payments weren't made, and I don't know which account they're supposed to come from. They were coming from the joint account, but when we did the paperwork, we changed it to your account, remember? You had the bank book then. Did it go missing? The bank book is here, but there's only $2 in the account. And I'm only getting $3,000 a month. Are you taking some of my money? Or is my salary going into your account? That's impossible. Your salary is $3,000 a month? I was paying the mortgage and utility bills from my salary. You worked for a big company, so you should have been able to pay the mortgage. But you quit when I got pregnant, right? Lillian was your colleague at that big company, so she should know you quit. Lillian thinks I'm working at an even better company. Honestly, I thought so too. My previous job was too tough, but now it's easier. The bigger the company, the easier the work.
Are you kidding? That's hilarious. So, you didn't even know your own salary.
I had to check my pay stubs online, which was a hassle, and the bills were getting paid. You're just working part-time, so you shouldn't be making much. Actually, during my pregnancy, I started a business. My app was a big hit, and now I make about $100,000 a month. But you said you didn't want my money, remember? Plus, I've already handled everything through a lawyer, so there's nothing you can do about it. What? Did you get it? I was paying the bills with my money, which is why you could spend on Lillian and didn't need to pay any bills. No way. So now I have to pay the mortgage, utilities, and everything else? That's right. Plus, you have to pay for your own retirement and Social Security contributions. I was paying for those, but I can't anymore. No way. What am I supposed to do?
I don't care. You need to take responsibility for your actions.
Come on, but you're making so much money now. You don't need alimony from me. That's a separate issue. You still need to pay alimony and child support.
Why? We can't afford it.
That's not my problem. Just the mortgage is $2,000, utilities are $1,000, our phone bills are $600, and we have $4,000 in credit card debt. That's a lot. That's your problem. You spent that money. How did you even get a credit card with your salary? It was from when Lillian and I worked at the same company. She said we could still use it. Well, if you don't pay, you can't use it. Then how are we supposed to live? That's not my problem. Why should I care? We were married, weren't we? We were. Not anymore. And you betrayed me. I'm sorry. If you're rich, I should have stayed with you. Our daughter is cute, too. She could be a model. How about you give me the money she makes? You're unbelievable. Don't you have any love for anyone?
Just give me money.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you something. I'm living in a luxury high-rise in the city now. It's amazing. The view is incredible. What? The house we built together may be luxurious. But I didn't know there were even better views out there. And now, I have my adorable child with me. I feel more love every day. Without someone like you around, life is so much better. Hey, is that allowed? Of course, it is. Since the divorce, I've earned even more money. It's all mine now. David was stunned and, with a changed attitude, said, So, if I break up with Lillian, can we undo this? Are you serious? Do you think I'd agree to that? Please, please. I don't know what to do. Well, I might consider waiving the child support. But you have to pay alimony in full. So, hurry up and pay. No way, tell me this is a joke. I wish it were. I said and hung up. 2 hours later, my mother-in-law called. If you had money, you should have said so. What fun do you get from making my son suffer? Your son's suffering is his own fault, isn't it? What did I do? I was the one being betrayed. Maybe, but everyone cheats. Why make a big deal out of it? With a parent like you, it's no wonder he turned out the way he did.
What did you say?
Your son is the problem, not me. I even let him keep the house. Without that, he'd be completely ruined. Why are you so unlovable? I can't believe it. Then don't contact me. Have your precious daughter-in-law help you out. She's no longer my daughter-in-law. What do you mean? She left. She's not living with us anymore. Did she leave him? Yes. When you took everything and she realized David had no money, she left. She even abandoned the child. Oh my, what about the divorce? They're not divorced yet. Actually, I didn't really care, but it sounded interesting, so I listened. When you left and found out David's salary was only $3,000 a month, she suddenly changed and said this. What? I didn't realize he had so little money. What a disappointment. Hey, I'll give you 3 months to find a job that pays at least $20,000 a month. If you can't, we're getting divorced. And you're taking the kid. She really said that. What a terrible woman. Compared to her, you were better. Now you're successful with your app, right? You have money. David doesn't need to work, and you have a beautiful daughter who looks just like him. She's adorable. Why don't you come back? We can raise her together, and you won't need to pay alimony. Mom, no, you're just an old lady now. Do you have any idea how delusional you sound? Old lady? What? Yeah, old lady. Cut the nonsense. I started my business during pregnancy because David's salary dropped drastically when he left his job. I pitied him and wanted to support him because I loved him then. But now, I don't feel any love. Every time you and David talk, it's about how cute the baby is. Babies aren't just about their looks. They're precious because they're here. Judging them by their appearance is sick. By the way, my daughter doesn't look like David. She looks just like me. People always say she's my spitting image. Nobody ever asks if she looks like her father. Have you even seen David's face?
What? You're so rude. People aren't judged by their looks.
See? You don't like your son being judged by his looks, yet you judge your granddaughter. You're out of your mind. I have no intention of taking you or David back into my life. Goodbye. I hung up before she could respond. I blocked both David and my mother-in-law's numbers to avoid any further contact. However, I soon received a call from an unknown number. Hey there, cheated wife. How's it going? Who is this? This is Lillian, the woman who stole your husband. Oh, Lillian. The one who left the moment the money ran out. So, the rumors are true. Yep, I left because there was no money. So, I don't need to pay any alimony, right? David is struggling to pay his own alimony and can't cover mine too, right? So, is that okay? I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll give David back to you. He's secondhand now, and there's a little boy with him. But your daughter will be happy to have an older brother, right? I always thought he was too ugly, looking just like David, so I didn't want him anyway. Are you judging children by their looks? Your child is cute, so it's fine. They say daughters look like their fathers and sons like their mothers, right? But since he doesn't look like me, I wondered if he was really mine. You're horrible. Do you have no love for your own child? he's mine and David's. As long as he gets love from David, it's fine. I'm done with parenting and want to be single. But if David gets a good job, I might reconsider. David isn't planning to work. He even came to me for help. So, he really is useless. In that case, I don't want him. You can have him back, and I won't pay any alimony. Bye. Lillian hung up. What a ridiculous woman. I blocked Lillian's number to avoid any further contact. Later, I heard through the grapevine that David and Lillian divorced. Lillian left David and their son for another man. David, stuck with raising their child, couldn't find a new job, and his parents had to cover his alimony payments. They ended up using all their retirement savings on David, leaving them in a dire situation. David tried contacting me several times from different numbers, but I hung up each time and blocked the number, so he eventually gave up. Lillian started seeing someone else and was already talking about remarriage, and I hired a private investigator to find out what she was up to. She was working part-time at a small supermarket, planning to live off her new boyfriend after marriage. She had already moved into his apartment, so I sent a certified letter to her new boyfriend's address. I informed him that Lillian had left her child with David. Apparently, she told her new boyfriend she didn't have any children, so he was furious when he found out. Additionally, he didn't know she was being sued for alimony, which led to their breakup.
Hey! You ruined my remarriage plan, you awful woman.
Who's awful here? Don't blame everything on me.
Because of you, my plan to marry a rich, handsome guy is ruined. He was perfect. Now it's all over.
Take responsibility for your actions. Your mother called, saying she'd make sure you pay the alimony. I know. She's been calling non-stop. I wondered what kind of parents raised someone like you, but they seem decent. How did such a great family produce someone as irresponsible as you?
Shut up. You've made my life miserable.
Right back at you. You made my life hell. But that was just temporary. My life is great now. I've gotten rid of nuisances like you, David, and my mother-in-law. I won't answer even if you change numbers and try to contact me. Go live with your parents and learn some responsibility. I hung up and went to the phone company to change my number. With a fresh start, I began a new life. Raising a child alone is challenging, but with my mom's help, I'm managing. My app development is on track, and I quit my job, so now I work from home. Watching my child grow and living a happy life is what lies ahead for us. For 5 years, I juggled raising a child, caring for our parents, doing housework, and working. When my daughter started elementary school, I finally collapsed from the strain. My unexpected long-term hospitalization infuriated my husband.
You've been getting pretty cheeky lately. You don't seem to know your place. I'm divorcing you.
Ethan slammed divorce papers with his signature already on it onto the side table.
Think about how you're gonna handle this.
With that, Ethan left the hospital room. He didn't even ask about our daughter. I was relieved she was staying with my parents, but I knew Ethan would head straight to his mistress instead of coming home. Divorce papers, huh? Feeling completely indifferent, I headed to the lawyer's office as soon as I was discharged and filed the divorce papers. However, oh, what's this? The next day, my phone was filled with dozens of missed calls from Ethan. I didn't know what he wanted, but it was too late for anything he had to say. He could regret it all he wanted. My name is Tina Smith, and I'm 40 years old. I live with my husband Ethan and our daughter Chloe. We've been married for 5 years, and during that time, I've been constantly juggling childcare, housework, work, and taking care of my father-in-law. I remember when I first met Ethan, I never imagined things would turn out this way. Our meeting was purely by chance while I was out shopping on a day off. Ethan was the one who helped me when my heel broke. When we were dating, he was kind and always celebrated my birthdays and anniversaries. But after we got married, he changed. It took me 5 years to come to terms with Ethan's sudden change. Shortly after we got married, I found out I was pregnant. Ethan demanded that I quit my job.
Taking maternity leave and parental leave will just inconvenience your company. Quit your job. What? But didn't you hear me? I said quit your job. Or are you saying my income isn't enough?
Hearing Ethan shout for the first time shocked and frightened me.
No, that's not it. But I thought I could continue working since there's an option for reduced hours. You're my wife now. Prioritize our home. We're having a baby. You don't have time to work.
Ethan shouted again. This time, he looked like he might get physical, so I reluctantly gave in to his demands. Okay.
I'll quit my job. Say that from the start. You can't even do housework properly and you're being cheeky.
His attitude was so different from before we got married that I was constantly bewildered, trying not to upset him. Although my colleagues were sorry to see me go, I finished my job handover and quit 6 months later. Until I resigned, Ethan kept making snide remarks.
You're dragging out your job so much. Are you really planning to quit? You're not trying to get away with it, are you? No, it's just that the handover is taking time. Don't think you can fool me. You're not getting away with anything. You must quit your job. Maternity and parental leave are always a bother to me. It's embarrassing that my wife would be such a nuisance.
I couldn't understand why Ethan was so insistent on me quitting my job. Nowadays, dual-income families are the norm, and sometimes there's even pressure to work. So I didn't know what was on his mind. But I found out his true intentions in an unexpected way a month after I quit my job. One night, I woke up thirsty. When I went to the living room to get some water, I heard Ethan talking. He seemed to be talking on the phone.
Yeah. That woman finally quit her job.
I immediately knew he was talking about me. Hearing him refer to me as that woman made my eyes widen.
The baby's coming, so she can't run away easily now. Don't worry, Mia is the one I really care about.
Mia must be the person he was talking to. I couldn't hear her words, but I heard her high-pitched laugh.
Yeah. I want Mia to stay free and beautiful. It's better than being tied down with marriage and a family. It's an adult romance.
The word affair flashed through my mind. Judging by his words, Ethan didn't plan to marry Mia. He was just manipulating both of us for his convenience.
Looking forward to our date next week.
Ethan had told me he'd be on a business trip next week. He must be lying to have fun with his mistress. I felt nauseous and wanted to leave right then and there. But, as Ethan mentioned on the phone, we were having a baby. Plus, I was already in the process of quitting my job. There was nothing I could do. It was humiliating and shameful, but I had to endure it for the sake of my child. Biting my lip, I quietly returned to the bedroom. My dad had a stroke. He's gonna be in a wheelchair from now on, Ethan suddenly told me just after Chloe was born.
No way! But he's not in any immediate danger, right?
My in-laws were wonderful people who were very kind to me and Chloe, unlike Ethan. I valued them more than Ethan at this point.
I said he'll be in a wheelchair. Listen when I talk.
Ethan had become increasingly short-tempered, yelling at every word I said. His outbursts scared me, and I watched his every move. I'm sorry.
Don't ever interrupt me again. Got it? From now on, you'll take care of my dad. Since he can't work anymore, I'll support my parents financially. You need to get a part-time job or something. But Chloe was just born.
I was shocked. Ethan's family was quite wealthy, and even with his father's health issues, they shouldn't be struggling so much that Ethan had to cover their living expenses. Actually, his father had already retired and was living comfortably. While some money might be needed for home renovations, it didn't seem like Ethan needed to support them financially. Sensing my doubts, Ethan's face turned red with anger.
Hey! I said not to interrupt. Don't talk back. You can leave the baby at your parents' or daycare. Are you telling me to abandon my parents?
No, that's not what I meant. Maybe he was using this as an excuse to spend money on his mistress. The thought weighed heavily on me. Being an only son of a wealthy family, Ethan had always been reckless with money. He didn't seem to accept having to cover the living expenses either. I believe his increasingly tyrannical behavior since we got married stems, in part, from his sense of superiority due to his wealthy family background.
I'm the one paying for your living expenses. If I'm telling you to help support my parents, you better comply without any fuss.
I regretted not taking maternity leave and continuing my job. But saying this now would only enrage Ethan again. Afraid of his anger, I reluctantly agreed to look for daycare and a job while helping with his father's care. Since his father was still in the hospital, I left Chloe with my parents and went to visit him.
Tina, I already told Ethan, you don't need to help with the care. Chloe was just born. My husband's legs are paralyzed, but he can still move. The baby is more important.
When I offered to help, my mother-in-law was very surprised over the phone. It seemed Ethan wasn't even listening to his own parents.
That's right, Tina. Don't worry about an old man like me. Take care of Chloe.
My father-in-law, who had supposedly had a stroke, sounded surprisingly strong and healthy.
Thank you. But Ethan seems worried about you both. And I am too, so please let me help if you need anything. That's kind of you, but...
In the end, despite their reluctance, I insisted on helping with my in-laws' daily life. At the same time, I found a part-time job to contribute to the household expenses. Most of the living costs came from my part-time earnings. The problem was that Ethan didn't help with the housework, childcare, or caregiving. While I was exhausted from all the new responsibilities, Ethan not only refused to help but also hurled insults at me whenever he felt like it.
Why isn't dinner ready when the man of the house comes home? You've been slacking on the housework lately. It's impossible to do all the housework, childcare, and caregiving perfectly. At least help with Chloe or take care of your dad on weekends. I'm working a full-time job. Unlike your part-time job, I have more work and responsibility. Housework, childcare, and caregiving are the wife's duties. Don't lean on me because you're being lazy. What did you say?
I was too stunned and angry to respond. My in-laws always apologized and thanked me whenever I visited, and they doted on Chloe. Honestly, I was grateful I could consult them about childcare since it was my first time doing it. Taking care of my father-in-law wasn't a burden because we worked together and discussed things. The only strain was physical, but I managed since my mother-in-law and father-in-law were in the same situation. The hard part was being at home. I had to do everything myself. I couldn't have my father-in-law watch Chloe, who can't walk yet, or ask my mother-in-law to cook lunch while I went shopping. Ethan just sat on the couch watching TV, doing nothing, and being tyrannical. Gradually, I dreaded being at home more than being at my in-laws' house. I managed to keep this up for 5 years thanks to the support from both my parents and in-laws. But when Chloe started elementary school, the stress finally got to me, and I collapsed suddenly. Fortunately, I collapsed at my parents' house, and they were able to call an ambulance right away. But the problems started after that.
Fibroids?
Yes.
The tests show you need surgery. However, you seem to be very fatigued, so we're also concerned about your strength. You'll need to be hospitalized for a while to recover before the surgery.
Fibroids usually don't require a long hospital stay. But due to my weakened condition, I needed long-term hospitalization. Ethan showed up after work when he got the news, and, as expected, he yelled at me with a furious expression.
You collapsed? What about Dad's care? What about the house and the kid? You're half-assing everything. Useless. Spineless.
That's not something you say to someone who just got rushed to the hospital by ambulance. However, I had already given up on Ethan, so I listened to his words with a calm heart. Seeing my calm reaction must have infuriated him. Ethan clicked his tongue loudly and glared at me.
You've been getting pretty cheeky lately. You don't seem to know your place. I'm divorcing you.
He must have prepared it in advance. Ethan slammed divorce papers with his signature already on it onto the side table.
Think about what you're gonna do next.
In the end, Ethan left the hospital room. He didn't even ask about Chloe. I was relieved she was staying with my parents, but I knew he would head straight to his mistress instead of coming home.
Divorce papers, huh?
I filled out the necessary information on the divorce papers and tucked them into a clear file folder. Chloe stayed alternately with my parents and in-laws, who brought her to the hospital every day. Ethan hasn't visited me or Chloe even once. Feeling like everything was pointless, I went straight to a lawyer's office after being discharged and filed the divorce papers. After informing my father-in-law about the divorce, I spent some much-needed time with Chloe. It had been a while since we slept in the same bed, and Chloe was so happy that it healed my weary heart.
Oh, what's this?
When I woke up and checked my phone, I was surprised. There were dozens of missed calls from Ethan. And right at this moment, he was calling again. I could ignore it, but he would just keep calling continuously. Reluctantly, I decided to answer.
Do you know what time it is? The number of missed calls is ridiculous. Hey! Where are you?
Without listening to me, Ethan's angry voice shouted in my ear. His voice was trembling. It seemed like he was crying.
Where do you think? I'm at my parents' house, of course. Of course? Don't be ridiculous. Why aren't you at home?
I couldn't help but laugh at his words. Normally, he'd be furious by now, but he didn't have the energy to notice my reaction. He just kept ranting through his tears.
What are you talking about? We're divorced, so of course, I'm at my parents' house. Divorced? You actually went through with that? Come back right now. What about taking care of Dad? The housework and childcare? You've got plenty to do.
Even in this situation, he only thought of himself. If he thought these words would make me come back, he was delusional.
I got permission from your dad. Chloe is with me, so I'll handle childcare. As for housework, I don't care. We're divorced, so take care of yourself. I'm not involved anymore. Permission from my dad? No way! He told me if we divorced, he'd disown me. What did you tell them?
It seemed my in-laws had confronted him about the divorce. That was why he was crying. His once stable life plan had suddenly collapsed, leaving him panicking.
I don't know. Don't make it sound worse than it is. They were disappointed because you never visited or helped care for them.
Ignoring Ethan's continued yelling, I hung up. Mornings are busy for me. I didn't have time to deal with him.
Mom, what's wrong?
Nothing, sweetie. Okay. Living with my parents was so much easier with their help with housework and childcare. I left the house with Chloe and headed to work. Everything with Ethan was going according to plan. After my hospitalization, I had told my in-laws about the situation between Ethan and me. I felt guilty about tattling, but I was at my limit, both physically and mentally. My in-laws had already been suspicious because I was the only one visiting and helping with care while their son never showed up. When I collapsed, they were worried and asked me about the situation, which led to my confiding in them.
He's disowned. Our estate will go to Chloe.
My father-in-law was furious about how his son had treated his wife and child. My mother-in-law looked dejected.
We spoiled him too much because he was our only son. We relied on you for help and didn't consider your situation enough. I'm so sorry. It's okay. I truly wanted to help you and Dad. Besides, I was doing all the housework and childcare alone at home. When I was at your place, you helped with Chloe, which was actually a relief for me. So please, don't worry about it.
My mother-in-law wiped away the tears that had welled up in her eyes. Chloe, who had come to the hospital with them, looked at me with concern while being surrounded by her beloved grandparents.
Mom, are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm just gonna be in the hospital for a little while. We had a proper discussion and decided on a plan moving forward. During my hospital stay, both my parents and in-laws would take care of everything. They also checked on the house and kept me updated. Ethan hadn't been home at all, which was another reason my in-laws were angry. What would he have done if his daughter had been left alone? How did he turn out to be so irresponsible? I also wondered how Ethan had become like this despite having such good parents. My mother-in-law blamed herself for spoiling him, but seeing how he acted in front of them, I didn't think they had spoiled him that much. Tina, I'm truly sorry. Please cut ties with him. I mentioned leaving the inheritance to Chloe, but if you don't want that, you can refuse. If you stay connected with us, you'll still have some minimal contact with him. My father-in-law looked down, ashamed. Disowning him wouldn't stop Ethan from trying to get his hands on the inheritance. He'd find a way to get the money if he could. But I didn't want to give in to that. I respect you both. I don't care about the inheritance, but I don't want to sever my relationship with you too. Chloe loves her grandparents so much. Ethan said he wanted a divorce, and I'm happy to oblige since I have no love left for him. But I'd like to continue helping each other as we always have. Would that be a problem? Tears welled up in their eyes. I loved and respected these two people deeply. They are as important to me as my own parents. They seemed to understand my feelings and hugged me and Chloe. Thank you, Tina. Thank you. We're so glad to have you and Chloe. We were family. Marrying Ethan had been a mistake, but meeting these wonderful people was a blessing. I truly felt that from the bottom of my heart. Today, I attended a meeting with a client. Although I had just recovered, I had kept up with work and information, so I was confident. The company also trusted me with the task. The presentation for the new product went smoothly, and I answered some questions and made suggestions, resulting in a very productive meeting. I was worried because of the break, but it went smoother than I thought. Just before heading home after finishing my work, I ran into Ethan in the company lobby. Well, I had expected this. It was because the client was Ethan's company. That's why I had explained the situation to the client and arranged the meeting when Ethan wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to be out visiting clients, but it seemed he had come back early. From what I could see, he was just chatting with a female colleague in the lobby. It would be nice if he at least respected work hours. I intended to ignore him, but Ethan furrowed his brows and came straight at me. What are you doing here? Trying to harass me? Ethan suddenly shouted, drawing the attention of everyone around us. The receptionist began making a phone call in a hurry. I tried to stay calm and keep my voice steady so he wouldn't drag me down with him. I'm here for work. Don't interfere. Work? A part-timer like you can't have business at a big company like this. Several people frowned at Ethan's words. How many people work part-time at this company, I wonder? If he turns all of them against him, he surely won't be able to work here properly. You ignore my calls but show up at my workplace? You're pathetic. Get my parents to take back the disownment right now. And never show your face to me again. Hearing that Ethan had been disowned, some onlookers started whispering to each other with pleased expressions. It seemed he had been acting arrogantly at work as well. He had already made many enemies. A normal person would back down in this cold atmosphere, but Ethan was glaring at me, breathing heavily. Moreover, a woman, just as clueless as Ethan, joined in. It was the same woman he had been chatting with earlier. Ethan, what's going on? Is this your ex-wife? Both of the receptionists frowned. And several other women also looked displeased. It seemed she was the type to be disliked by her own gender. Mia. Yeah, this is my ex-wife. It's such a nuisance that she showed up here. Mia looked at me and laughed mockingly. It was infuriating, but yelling back would be pointless. I quietly watched their triumphant faces. Too bad. Ethan's real love is me.
You chased him all the way here. How desperate and creepy. Go home, stalker, before you get arrested.
It was pointless to react. As I remained silent, Ethan and Mia seemed to think I was intimidated, and their smiles grew even wider. Meanwhile, I noticed a man in the lobby running to the elevator and talking to someone inside.
Over here! Hurry!
Guided by the man, the person who stepped out of the elevator was the head of the Planning and Development Department, who had been in the meeting with me earlier. The head, who seemed to have been briefed on the situation, hurried over to me.
What's going on here?
The head spoke to me, but Ethan responded.
I'm sorry. It's embarrassing, but this woman has been following me to harass me. I apologize for causing a scene at the company. I'll get rid of her right away.
At Ethan's words, the head's expression changed.
How dare you? That's incredibly rude. Apologize now. What?
The head grabbed Ethan's head and forced him to apologize to me. Ethan and Mia seemed unable to comprehend the sudden turn of events.
I deeply apologize for the rudeness of our employees.
It's okay.
It's embarrassing, but it's true. I was once married to this man. There was a misunderstanding. You don't need to worry about it.
With the head's arrival, the crowd dispersed. The incident would undoubtedly spread throughout the company by the end of the day. The receptionists were watching intently, so this would undoubtedly spread through them. Others in the lobby, who seemed to be there for work, were glancing at Ethan with interest. The only ones who didn't grasp the situation were Ethan and Mia.
This is ridiculous. She's just a part-time worker. Sir, you're being deceived. That's right.
It's remarkable that they still have the nerve to argue with their superior in this situation, but don't they realize they're only making things worse? As expected, the head of the department shouted at Ethan.
Shut up. Keep your mouth closed. I apologize for this behavior. I'll deal with it strictly.
I wanted Ethan and Mia to face the consequences of their actions. So I decided to take advantage of the situation.
You're right. At this rate, they might be rude to other clients and partners. Please take appropriate action.
Ethan looked like he wanted to argue, but he kept silent, not wanting to anger his boss further. Mia still couldn't give up and shrieked.
This is a joke, right? There's no way this old woman is important. Didn't you hear me? Be quiet.
Mia finally fell silent after being yelled at loudly. I deliberately spoke to the two of them in a calm voice.
It seems you don't understand the situation. I don't have any business cards to give you, but I'll just introduce myself. I work in the product development department at Jackson Corporation.
Before I got married, I worked at this company. Ethan and Mia's faces changed.
That's a lie. You quit that company. An old woman like you couldn't possibly work there now. Stop lying. You're just showing off.
Ignoring them, I talked to the head of the department.
I never imagined they wouldn't understand. I apologize. I thought introducing myself would clear things up. No, we should be the ones apologizing. I'm truly sorry. We'll make sure to address this strictly.
Ignoring Ethan and Mia, the head and I continued our conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the trouble. Once I return to the office, I'll formally apologize and explain the situation.
The head seemed to decide that talking to Ethan and Mia was useless, so he focused on assisting me. Understanding my suggestion that Ethan and Mia wouldn't cause any more trouble in front of everyone, the head began making calls to arrange for my transportation and to notify Ethan's direct supervisor. In the meantime, I spoke to Ethan and Mia in a voice only they could hear.
Jackson Corporation is actually run by my relatives. I never mentioned that, did I?
Before we got married, my parents advised me to keep quiet about it, so I did. Looking back, it was the right decision. If Ethan had known, who knows how he might have tried to use that information.
Since I quit once, I did start as a part-timer when I came back. Then I became a part-time employee with reduced hours, then a full-time employee. Maybe it was nepotism, but I worked my way up. It helped that I was familiar with the company and the department.
I had worked hard to get here. Balancing housework, childcare, and caregiving wasn't easy. But because my relatives, except for Ethan, supported me, I've been able to make it this far.
Mia, was it? Sorry, but I earn more than your boyfriend now. There's no benefit for me to stay married to him, so I'm glad we divorced. You can have him if you want. I don't care anymore.
Ethan glared at me with hatred in his eyes. This prideful man probably couldn't stand that I said I didn't need him. Looking back, Ethan probably made me quit my job because he couldn't stand the fact that I was a full-time employee at a company he did business with. The thought of having to defer to his wife in a professional setting must have been unbearable for him. He's a small-minded man to the core.
Oh, by the way, I have solid proof of the affair. I've discussed it with your parents.
I determined revenge for being manipulated by such a small-minded man. It might also mean taking away his place to stay, but that's his own fault.
Mia, you too. Don't think you can escape.
I spoke to them in a calm, quiet voice. Even though the department head had stepped away, he was still in the lobby. If Ethan and Mia raised their voices again, it could potentially lead to a lawsuit. Fortunately, they weren't that foolish, so they listened to my words quietly.
I can't wait to see how the company handles this after such a public scene.
A few employees remaining in the lobby were all glaring coldly at Ethan and Mia.
Your taxi will be here soon. Please, this way.
Thank you. I was politely escorted out by the company executives as I left. Behind me, I saw Ethan and Mia being dragged into the elevator by what seemed to be their direct supervisor. Ethan had not only been cut ties by his parents but also fired from his job. His rude behavior toward a client was a major reason, but the fact that I was the client and our relationship was terrible also played a part. On top of that, he had made enemies with the part-time employees due to the recent incident. It was only natural that he couldn't perform his duties properly anymore. Later, I presented the evidence of the affair, which a private investigator had gathered. Now, he's desperately job hunting. With no help from his parents and no convenient slave to rely on. He seems to be considering bankruptcy, but I've made sure to secure his assets, so his next moves should be interesting. Mia, on the other hand, resigned voluntarily. Her poor work attitude and the recent scandal made it difficult for her to continue. She's now working diligently at another place.
Tina, Chloe, welcome. Hi, Grandma.
My work is going well, and life is great. Despite cutting ties with Ethan, my relationships with my in-laws and parents are strong. Chloe is very close to both sets of grandparents, and both of them adore her.
Hi, Grandpa. Does your leg still hurt?
Hello, Chloe. My leg feels better now that you're here. Thank you. I heard my daughter's joyful laughter. Both my in-laws looked happy. Marrying Ethan was a mistake, but meeting them was a blessing. Tina. I got your favorite cake. Let's have some. Thank you. Although I still try to help with my father-in-law's care, my mother-in-law has hired external help since my collapse. She said bringing Chloe over makes them happiest, so I often visit with her. Surrounded by my wonderful daughter and amazing parents, I am now the happiest I've ever been.
Mom, have our finances stabilized? Somewhat. With only $1,200 a month from Social Security, we were barely getting by, so Mary's remittances have been a big help. We're also managing your father's hospital bills, so thank you. That's good to hear. Really, thank you so much for the extra $600 a month, even with your night job. Huh? There's no way it's just $600. I've been sending $6,000.
As usual, a phone call from my daughter checking up on us. I thought it would just be a simple chat today too. But suddenly, she told me the amount she's been sending is $6,000. Hearing that, my mind went blank for a moment.
What are you talking about? It has to be $600. If you send that much, you'll be struggling yourself. It's okay. Tom and I discussed it, and we both put money from our salaries into it. So every time, I transfer it properly to Tom. What's wrong?
My daughter, who was talking to me, suddenly changed her tone and stopped speaking.
No way! What is it?
She spoke to me quietly as if she had realized something. I think Tom might have. He just got home from work, so I'll ask him. And she hung up. The next day, my daughter told me a shocking truth. My name is Anna. I'm 75 years old and retired from an insurance company where I worked as an office clerk. Now, I'm living on Social Security, but even combined with my husband's, we only get $1,200 a month, which is quite low. My husband and I met at a party and started dating. Back then, I was earning a substantial salary at the insurance company. However, my husband has always had a frail constitution, making it difficult for him to hold a steady job. As a result, he moved from one company to another. Despite that, thanks to the good economy at the time, we managed to save enough money to live comfortably. But over time, that money was spent on our house and car loans, and now we have almost nothing left. We're forced to live a difficult life, but we're managing to get by.
When I save enough money, I want to do something for you and Dad, so I'm gonna work hard.
That's what my daughter said when she landed her current job.
It's okay. I can still work. With my current salary, we can get by, so don't worry and save money for yourself.
When my daughter was still small, we bought a house and had to make her go through hard times because of the mortgage payments. She seemed to be concerned about that and her father's health, and that's why she said those things. But back then, we were still managing to get by. So, I told her that she didn't need to worry too much about our lives.
I see, but don't push yourself too hard. Dad has his health to think about, so take care of yourselves. Thanks. If I didn't have this body, I could have worked much harder, but I'm happy to have you and Mary.
My husband, being 76 years old, had been catching colds more easily and was often bedridden recently. Our daughter worked as an office clerk at a slightly larger local construction company, where she met a salesman and decided to quit her job to get married. Her husband worked at the construction company, too, and was a fit and active young man. Thank you for marrying our daughter. Please take care of her. Although my daughter and her husband moved out, they rented a condo close to our house so they could come over quickly if anything happened. That was my daughter's thoughtfulness.
I'm worried about you and Dad. We have some savings, so please rely on us if anything happens. Tom is okay with it too, and he's willing to help.
At that time, I was full of gratitude towards my daughter and her husband. But those feelings were all shattered by an unexpected turn of events. It started to show a few months after my daughter's wedding. Tom, with his active personality, began taking us out to events like barbecues quite often. This is nice. We've never really done outdoor activities like barbecues before, so this is a lot of fun. At such times, both my daughter and Tom seemed to be happy. But my husband, who was there with us, had a gloomy look and sat in the chair the whole time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I just don't have the stamina. It's hard to move around.
He looked pale and unwell as he said that.
I'm sorry for pushing you to come. Maybe it would have been better if you had just rested at home? Hey, don't push yourself too hard. If you're not feeling well, I can take you home.
At that moment, Tom was standing alone by the grill, looking at us with a disgruntled expression. He seemed upset that the fun event was being ruined and that we were looking after my husband instead of enjoying ourselves.
Hey, I get that you're not in great shape, but can't you do something about it? I'm sorry, but it can't be helped, he was born this way. Even so, he raised me well. I want to take good care of him, and you agreed to that, Tom.
I did agree, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. I'm really surprised.
Don't say that. He's doing his best to live, and it's not fair to make fun of his condition.
That night, my daughter and her husband had a huge fight. She couldn't forgive him for speaking badly about her father. The next day, my daughter came over for coffee and vented about it.
I didn't think he had that kind of personality. He's usually so kind and considerate. It's really disappointing. Maybe it was just a one-time thing? Even so, he was too blunt. It felt like he was mocking my dad, and I couldn't stand it.
Tears welled up in my daughter's eyes. She must have been deeply hurt by the way her husband belittled her father. Despite his frail health, my husband had always tried his best to play with our daughter, and she loved him for that. He always did his best. Knowing how hard he always tried, she couldn't forgive her husband's words. After that, Tom rarely suggested taking my husband out. On days when my husband felt stronger, they would go out together, but those times were rare.
Hey, why don't we try inviting your dad to the gym next time? What? Are you serious? You know he's not in great shape.
I know.
But I did some research and think he might lack basic physical fitness. We won't push him too hard, just once. I don't think it makes much sense. He's already 76 and elderly, so don't make him do anything strenuous. Mary, do you really think it's okay for your dad to stay like that? It would be much better if he got healthier.
Lately, my daughter had been arguing with her husband about my husband. Tom wanted to help my husband get stronger, so he had signed him up for a gym membership. This led to a fight with my daughter, but Tom insisted on taking my husband to the gym, which ended in disaster. The day after the workout, my husband's condition worsened rapidly, and when we took him to the hospital, he was diagnosed with pneumonia and had to be admitted immediately.
I told you not to take him. Why did you do it? Stop thinking physical strength is everything. Not everyone is like that. If my dad dies because of this, you're going to be responsible, Tom. Mary, it's okay. Dad got pneumonia, but he'll recover like always, right?
Mom, you're too soft. That's why Tom takes advantage of you. My daughter stormed out of the hospital room. Tom didn't even try to follow her. Instead, he gave us a cold look and left without saying a word.
I just don't understand what Tom is thinking.
His eyes were frightening at that moment. The way he looked at my husband wasn't like looking at a person. It was like he was looking at trash on the street, something dirty. My husband's pneumonia didn't improve but worsened, and his hospital stay was extended. Living on $1,200 a month from Social Security, we had to cover his hospital bills from that amount too. While I was worrying about our situation, my daughter came over and talked to me.
Mom, isn't it hard living like this? If anything happens, I'll help out. Are you okay? Actually, it's really tough. Even with saving, we have your dad's hospital bills. We can hardly use any money for living expenses. What should we do? It's okay, don't worry. I'll work hard. I'll get a part-time job to earn money for your living expenses. I've already had a serious talk with Tom after that. Even when Dad recovers, I told him not to do anything like that again. For now, I'll take care of your living expenses.
My daughter started a part-time job to support us. At first, she thought a part-time job would be enough, but it wasn't, so she started working nights too, working around the clock.
You don't have to work that hard. No! You and Dad worked hard and took care of me even when times were tough. We got through those hard times because of you too. Now, I want to work hard for you.
Crying, my daughter appealed to me. Her love for us was strong. Seeing us work so hard when she was little, she respected us deeply.
Thank you, I understand. But don't overdo it.
I wanted to support her enthusiasm. Feeling her deep love for us, my heart warmed. A few days later, I checked the remittance from my daughter. It was under Tom's name, but I figured they had arranged to transfer the money from his account and didn't think much of it. One day, as these remittances continued.
Mom, have our finances stabilized? Somewhat. With only $1,200 from Social Security, we were barely getting by, so Mary's remittances have been a big help. We're also managing your father's hospital bills, so thank you. That's good to hear. Really, thank you so much for the extra $600 a month, even with your night job. Huh? There's no way it's just $600. I've been sending $6,000.
The atmosphere turned tense from my daughter's phone call. It seems she had been transferring $6,000 to us from her and Tom's earnings. Busy with her part-time and night jobs, Tom had been handling the transfers, but my daughter seemed to have sensed something and hung up to confront him as he got home from work. The next day. Hello, Mom.
Why do you sound so down? What happened after we talked last night?
Well, it's Tom. My daughter, crying over the phone, told me what happened the previous night. It was shocking.
What happened? Was it something that bad? Can you tell me everything?
Yeah, I can. This is my problem too, but you need to hear it, Mom. What Tom thinks about Dad and us, and what he did. I need to tell you everything. My daughter took a deep breath to calm herself.
Tom seems to find us annoying. Why would he think we're annoying? He gets fed up with how Dad always needs attention. He also can't stand that Dad has a weak constitution. He says things like that's what happens when you don't exercise from a young age, and he must have had a poor upbringing. It makes me so sad. I see. Tom's healthy and works hard, but he's different from your dad, so saying those things doesn't help. Yeah, and here's the worst part. Since I started working, Tom's been frustrated, saying things like you're doing this for your parents. I convinced him to help with the remittances, but my intuition was right. Tom only put $600 into your account.
My daughter continued, her anger evident.
When I asked why, he confessed he's been having an affair and used the rest of the money on his mistress. What? An affair? He's frustrated with how our whole family is taking care of Dad and feels he can't stay with such a family. But he doesn't want a divorce. Why not? He likes the comfort of our current life and wants me to keep managing the household.
It was shocking to see Tom's true character revealed. Despite his seemingly kind face, I never imagined he could be so selfish.
I can't let this go. I want to get back at Tom. So, Mom, I need your help.
Hearing this sudden request from my daughter, I couldn't stand how much Tom had disrespected my beloved husband. I decided to join my daughter in seeking revenge on Tom and to take action together.
By the way, what about remittances? He admitted to having an affair, so is everything okay?
That's the thing.
I can't understand Tom's feelings at all. What happened?
A day had passed since yesterday's call, and my daughter came over to plan our strategy. She looked exhausted, and I worried that she was overworking herself. Okay, wasn't from work. But her tired look wasn't from work.
Yesterday, we talked a bit more after the call. I told Tom that if he's going to say things like that, I'll divorce him. I said I'd work harder and send you the money myself, so he can do whatever he wants. What did he say? He begged me not to divorce him. He said, I'm having an affair, but she's like a close friend, so don't worry about it. He claimed he still loves me. He even said he'd make sure the next remittance is the full amount. But his eyes were shifty, so I think he's lying.
I couldn't understand what Tom was thinking. He found my husband's need for attention annoying, but he still claimed to love my daughter. He excused his affair as having a close friend, smoothly coming up with explanations. Maybe it's his sales job that makes him so glib.
He sure has a way with words. It's hard to trust his true feelings. Right? I think his sales job has made him so good at talking.
My daughter seemed to feel the same way.
Anyway, Mom, Tom said he'd send the full remittance from now on, but I doubt it. I think he'll only send $600 like always, so I want to check on that. Then I want to find out who his affair partner is and how long this has been going on. Finally, I'm going to hit him with divorce papers.
She had a plan. The next remittance would come after his next paycheck, in the middle of next month. I was worried about whether my daughter's mental health would hold up until then. So, that's the plan. Please help me with this. In a tired and weak voice, my daughter said this and tried to head home.
Wait a minute. You sound exhausted, and your eyes are bloodshot. You're going to collapse at this rate.
What are you talking about? I'm fine.
No. You don't understand. Your father once went through something similar. He overworked himself, collapsed, and it became life-threatening. Please, don't push yourself.
I grabbed my daughter's arm, tears streaming down my face, and collapsed on the spot. I didn't want her to end up like her father. Seeing me like that, she seemed to realize her own condition, took off her shoes, and walked into the living room. Mom, I'm sorry. I've been stubborn. I've been feeling dizzy for a while now, like I was going to faint, she said, sitting down. Sorry. It's not just about Dad, but I've been stubborn about Tom, too. I've been under a lot of stress, and it seems like I've reached my limit. Maybe I should take a break from work, she said, resting her head on the table, tears welling up in her eyes.
You're just like your father. Hardworking and stubborn, never complaining even when it's tough.
I sat next to her, gently rubbing her back. Then, she took out her phone and called her husband. What are you doing? Are you okay?
You're not at home.
I'm not okay. Not okay. What happened? I'm exhausted.
I'm at my parents' house now, but I almost fainted. Mom told me I need to rest because I'm overworked.
She had him on speaker, so I could hear him too. His voice sounded a bit anxious, but didn't seem genuinely concerned. So, what are you gonna do? Can I stay at my parents' for a while? I want to take a break from work and properly rest. I'm nervous about being alone at home until you get back from work, she said, and his voice brightened up a bit. Sure, that's fine. Take your time and rest up, he said, and hung up. My daughter, still lying down, gave me a small smile. He's fallen into the trap.
I think he's gonna bring his mistress to the house. He sounded a bit too happy at the end. Mary, you haven't been working just for this, have you?
No, it's not like that.
But given the situation, I think we can use it. Waiting for the next remittance is too long, so I'm gonna take action within this week.
A few days later, on Saturday, my daughter went to her condo to execute her plan. She saw her husband's car in the parking lot. So he hadn't gone out. Their condo was on the first floor, and she quietly peeked into the living room window from the balcony. Just as she suspected, he had brought his mistress to the house.
No way, that girl, she used to work in the same office as me.
She almost shouted but managed to suppress it. The mistress was completely unexpected. The mistress was someone she knew, a former colleague. Anger welled up in her. Apparently, this girl had shown interest in her husband back then. Could she have made a move after my daughter retired? Many thoughts raced through her mind.
This might be enough for now. I've got good evidence. This can corner Tom.
Convinced, she left the scene. When she got back home, she called her husband to gauge the situation. Hello, I'm feeling much better, so I think I'll come back tomorrow. Sorry for the trouble. Was everything okay for the week, she said, and he responded in a flustered voice.
Oh, okay. Tomorrow, right? You're coming back tomorrow. Yeah, everything was fine for the week.
He was clearly agitated. His breathing was a bit heavy, and it seemed like he had been up to something.
You sound out of breath.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong.
Oh, okay. If you say so. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow, so see you then. She hung up. Then, with a sigh, she put her phone on the table and slumped over, remaining still for a moment.
Hey, are you really okay? You don't look fully recovered. Yeah, I'm still feeling weak. My body feels heavy, but I have to do this. I need to settle this by tomorrow, or I don't think I'll feel any better.
Then she picked up her phone again and started making a call. No answer, she muttered, just as someone picked up. Hello? Oh, hi Allie. How have you been?
What's this about all of a sudden?
I've been so exhausted from work lately. I think I'm overworked and need someone to talk to. I saw your number on my phone and thought I'd call.
Sorry, I'm kind of busy right now. Can we do this later?
Busy? What's going on?
Well, it's just...
As usual, my daughter had the call on speaker. I could hear a man's heavy breathing in the background near the woman's voice. All right, fine. Can you call me back later? I'd love to catch up, she said, ending the call.
Hey, who were you talking to just now?
That was Tom's mistress.
You have her number?
She used to be a colleague at my old job. We got along really well at first and exchanged contact info, but I hadn't used it until now. I wanted to confirm if it was really her, so I called. And it was Allie. I could hear Tom's voice in the background. My daughter said this with a bitter smile, then sighed with her face buried in her arms on the table. I've heard that divorce is harder than getting married, and it's true. I'm already exhausted, and the stress is making it worse.
That's why you shouldn't push yourself. Are you really okay?
Yeah, I thought I might have to wait until next month, but I think I can settle this sooner. Tomorrow, before I see Tom, I'm going to confront Allie and get her to spill everything. At that moment, I felt the depth of my daughter's determination for revenge. I was touched by how far she was willing to go to protect our family. After a while of relaxing and drinking coffee, my daughter received a call on her phone. It was from the mistress. Thanks for calling back.
So, what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'd rather discuss it in person than over the phone. Can you meet me at a coffee shop?
Sure.
Thanks. Can you come to the Starbucks in front of the station around 3 p.m.?
Okay. I'll be there.
The mistress hesitated a bit but agreed to meet at the designated time and place. So, I'm heading out now.
Isn't that a bit too sudden? Won't she be suspicious?
She's not clever enough to handle an affair smoothly. She's straightforward and honest, so I think she'll confess if I press her. I don't know why she started the affair, but I'm sure it was Tom who kept it a secret. My daughter finished her coffee, took a moment to calm down, and then rested in the living room until it was time to leave. Hey, Allie. Long time no see. How have you been?
Long time no see. You really don't look well. Are you okay?
Let's go inside and sit down to talk. They exchanged greetings and entered the cafe. Once they were seated and their drinks arrived, my daughter took on a serious expression and confronted the mistress. I'm sorry to bring this up, Allie, but you're having an affair with Tom, right? Suddenly confronted, the mistress lowered her head and bit her lip, unable to say anything. Tell me the truth. When did it start, and... I'm sorry. I knew Tom was married to you, but I still got involved with him. Is that true? We've worked together for 10 years, and I know you, Allie. Who made the first move? It was Tom. I rejected him at first, but... When did it start? 6 months ago. Tom suddenly approached me and gave me this. The mistress held out her hand to show a ring. This is... He said he bought it for me. At that moment, my daughter was certain. The money for the ring came from the money she earned working hard to support her mother, and from Tom's savings. I can't forgive this. He used the money for something like this? What do you mean? The money he used to buy this ring was probably the money I earned to support my mom at home. What? No way. The mistress hadn't known, and she looked horrified by the situation. So you didn't know the truth. Why were you at the house today? Did Tom threaten you? The mistress, surprised that my daughter had figured it out, sighed and began to speak. I'm sorry. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing. Tom told me you were staying at your parents' house for a while, and That's unacceptable.
But, Allie, you liked Tom, didn't you? Do you still? I'm really sorry for having an affair. And for cooking at your place and having fun while you were going through a tough time. I'll do anything to make it right. Please forgive me.
You're as honest as ever, Allie. If you felt that way, you shouldn't have had an affair. But you did, and you need to make up for it. I'm going back home tomorrow. Will you help me? She asked, sipping her coffee. The mistress, still looking down, couldn't speak, but my daughter gently encouraged her.
What's done is done. Did Tom tell you anything? He talks so smoothly that I can't tell if he's lying or telling the truth. I know, he just talks a lot without saying anything meaningful. Because of that, our boss has been yelling at him every day. What? He's getting yelled at? Yeah, his sales numbers are down. He complains that he can't close deals because he just keeps talking without substance. That's surprising. I always thought he was a hard worker when I was there. It's been like this since he got married. He's been irritable every day, started having empty conversations, and then he approached me.
This conversation connected all the dots. Tom had been stressed from his home life since marrying my daughter. He vented his pent-up emotions through meaningless conversations, which backfired and caused more stress at work. Unable to handle my daughter's lack of attention, he turned to the mistress. This was my daughter's conclusion.
And one more thing. My dad was born with a weak constitution and shouldn't exert himself too much, but Tom once took him to the gym for a strenuous workout. It made him so weak that he couldn't move. Now his pneumonia has worsened, and he's in the hospital.
Hearing this, the mistress looked shocked. She slammed her hand on the table and stood up.
What? That's unforgivable. I'll help you, Mary. My dad is a lawyer, so I'll get his advice. You drop a bombshell like that now? How did you manage to have an affair with a lawyer for a dad?
I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. She looked down in embarrassment, but knowing what Tom had done made her switch sides.
I'll help you tomorrow. Let's bring Tom down. And you'll have to reflect on what you're doing, Allie. You did have an affair, after all.
Yes. This conversation was the right move. My daughter seemed much lighter when she got home, looking refreshed.
It went just as I thought. Allie is still the kind person she was before. That's good to hear. So, will tomorrow be okay? Yeah.
She had a bright, unclouded smile. With a strong ally for tomorrow's confrontation, my daughter's spirits were significantly lifted.
I'm home!
Oh. Welcome back. Did you have a good rest? Tom greeted us with an overly cheerful demeanor. Anna, you're here too. What brings you there? His voice sounded slightly higher than usual. Was he rattled by what happened yesterday? There had been plenty of time since the mistress left. He must have been frantically trying to cover his tracks, fearing evidence might be found.
You sure used up a lot from the fridge. Did you cook for yourself?
Oh, yeah. Impressive, right? I can cook for myself and handle the housework, too.
Isn't that a bit much food for one person? We stocked up for 2 people for a month, but you've gone through enough for 1 person in 2 weeks. Actually, even more than that. Really? Maybe I ate too much.
He was visibly shaken by her probing questions.
And you did a surprisingly thorough job cleaning. Are you secretly a good housekeeper, Tom? What? Are you suspicious because you think I'm having an affair? You're saying that in front of my mom, and isn't it supposed to be a close friend, not an affair?
The atmosphere grew tense as soon as we got home. At that moment, the doorbell rang, and the mistress arrived.
Oh. She's here. Come on in.
My daughter called the mistress through the intercom and let her in. Tom looked utterly bewildered, his eyes widening in shock when he saw the mistress.
What? Allie, what are you doing here?
She came over today.
We met yesterday after a long time and had a great time catching up. So we decided to have coffee together today.
My daughter's voice was loaded with implication. She was about to corner Tom. They both sat on the living room sofa, glaring at Tom, silently pressuring him to sit on the opposite side. Realizing something was up, Tom complied, looking nervous as he faced them.
Yesterday, talking with Mary made me realize something. I can't do this anymore. Here, take back this ring. I'm ending this affair today. And you better sell that ring and return the money you took from Mary.
The mistress's tone was severe. Terrified, Tom sensed the gravity of the situation and immediately apologized deeply.
I'm sorry. I have coerced Ali into the affair and used the money I should have given to Mary to buy that ring. Please forgive me. I was so stressed out, I didn't know what to do. Please don't divorce me. I'll stop the affair with Ali, I swear.
Everything my daughter had suspected was true. Tom continued apologizing, but my daughter's disdainful look didn't change. She placed the divorce papers in front of him.
My mind is made up. We're getting divorced. And don't think I've forgotten about what you did to my father. I'm also considering seeking damages for that. What? Why? What you did to him counts as defamation. My dad is a lawyer, and he said we could get compensation. Don't try to run away. We had an affair, and there's no escaping that. We'll both face the consequences together.
The mistress's sly smile made her seem almost psychopathic. She was determined to drag Tom down with her, knowing she was guilty too.
This is ridiculous. Why do I have to go through all this? You've ruined my family's finances. Things were already hard, and then you caused my dad to end up in the hospital. Come on, please. We don't need to go that far. Divorce should be enough, right? I'm really sorry. I'll make amends for everything, and we'll get divorced. Just please don't make me pay damages. No. The crime of insulting my father and lying to me about the affair is serious. I won't let you off that easily.
Tom slumped down on the sofa. He seemed to realize there was no escape. I'm sorry. I'll do whatever you say. It was all my fault, he said, starting to cry.
Tell me, when did you find out I was having an affair with Ali?
Tom asked in a thin voice.
Yesterday morning. You probably stayed over since Friday, right? Or were you here every day? Like I said earlier, the amount of food disappearing from the fridge was abnormal. If you're going to have an affair, at least be more discreet.
I'm sorry.
I've already told my dad about the affair. We're prepared to make you face the consequences. I've also taken steps regarding your slander against Mary's dad, so be ready for court. And don't forget about the money you were supposed to be sending to my mom. That's the biggest issue here. Why did you use that money to buy a ring? Couldn't you have used your own money? Well, my salary got cut. My performance hasn't been great, and I was told I'd be fired if I screwed up another deal. But I wanted Ali to notice me, so I'm appalled. Ali told me some of this, but you've really been demoted? Because of your empty talk at meetings? And you planned to skim off next month's payment too, didn't you? I know everything. My savings were running low, so yeah, I was going to do that. I don't know how it came to this. I really don't. It's your own fault. You insulted my family, let your stress build up, and started lying. You did this to yourself.
Seeing this scene unfold before me, I felt sorry for Tom. I had thought I would say something as part of our revenge, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. In the end, Tom signed the divorce papers and left.
I wasn't much help, was I?
You were. Just having you here gave me strength. Thank you. And so, our revenge came to an end. The divorce was finalized, and the affair went to court. Tom also faced a lawsuit for defamation against my husband, and he was ordered to pay damages. Ali quit her job, revealing her affair with Tom to the boss before disappearing.
This gossip doesn't matter much to me, but I might use it to boost your sales numbers. Not everyone knows yet, so if you don't want the whole company to find out, work as hard as you used to. Do your job well.
The boss's comments reached us through one of my daughter's former colleagues, who got in touch with her friend. Under the pressure, Tom eventually resigned from the company. My daughter moved out of her old condo and came back to live with us. Looking forward to being back. I'm so glad you're coming back. Thank you. My husband's pneumonia eventually healed, and he was discharged from the hospital. Now, the three of us live together. My daughter got a call from a friend at her old company. They were short on staff and asked her to return. She accepted and started working again as an office clerk at the construction company. Life has become more fulfilling for her, but I still hope she'll get married again.
Do you think you'll ever want to get married again? Not right now. After everything with Tom, I need to be alone for a while. The idea of romance scares me.
Though that's how she feels now, I still hope that someday she'll find someone to marry again.
Why did this happen? What? What's wrong?
But my husband was glued to his phone and didn't hear me.
Hey, are you listening? We need to leave now.
We're in the middle of the wedding party. And yet, he wasn't paying any attention to me, mumbling something to himself. I was getting frustrated and walked over to him.
Hey!
Just as I reached to take his phone, he shoved me away.
Let go!
I ended up falling, landing on my rear.
Oh!
As I fell, I stepped on the hem of my dress, ripping it. This dress was custom designed after many consultations. I had been looking forward to this day so much. What is he thinking? Then his phone rang.
Hello!
I couldn't tell who he was talking to, but his face turned pale. When the call ended, he staggered over to the sofa and collapsed onto it.
What happened?
He opened his mouth with a dead look in his eyes.
She collapsed.
Collapsed.
Who? My ex. What?
My voice was so loud it seemed to echo through the entire venue.
Don't shout like that. This is serious.
Seriously? What are you talking about? Who is this in front of me? Isn't he supposed to be my husband? I can't understand why he'd prioritize his ex over me. To be honest, I don't care what happens to his ex. But looking at him, it seems pretty serious.
What do I do? What's the right thing to do?
He's mumbling again.
Hey, we're running out of time.
He looked up, as if he had an idea.
That's right. We can get married anytime. What?
So let's cancel. Yeah, that's the best thing. I'm so shocked I can't think for a moment. He started preparing something hastily.
Hey, you can't be serious.
Sorry. He apologized with his hands together. But it felt so insincere. I was just about to change into my new dress and show everyone. All right.
You tell everyone I'm leaving. What?
He didn't hear my protest and walked out of the room. A staff member came in just as he was leaving.
What just happened? My husband ran off. What?
Of course, they were shocked. And then, an idea struck me. If he's gonna cancel, then I'll just cancel something of my own. I headed to the hall where the guests were waiting, all by myself. Might as well drag the guests into my grand revenge. Just wait and see. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm really looking forward to it. My name is Mirabelle. I'm a freelancer now, but I used to work in PR. I joined the company with no experience, but thanks to my kind colleagues, I managed to get by. 5 years after I joined, a friend who worked at the same company made a suggestion.
Why are you grinning like that?
Huh? Oh, it's nothing.
Come on, it's really bothering me.
You don't have any plans tonight, right?
Huh? No, I'm just going straight home, so nothing.
Perfect. I want you to come with me for a bit. I had a lot of questions, but I met up with my friend after work.
So, where are we going?
Just follow me for now. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I had no choice but to go along. We arrived at a bar. Here?
Yeah. It's a pretty nice place, right?
Is this where you wanted to bring me? Well, that's part of it, but not exactly. When we went inside, there was a man sitting there. Long time no see. Hey. They seemed really close, so I thought he was her boyfriend. But this is John. My high school classmate. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. This was how I met John, who would later become my husband. Apparently, my friend was trying to set me up with a nice guy since I didn't have a boyfriend. Hey. Didn't you say you wanted a boyfriend, Mirabelle? Trust me. My judgment is spot on. That's not the point. When I met John, he was working as a bartender. He had a dream of owning his own bar. He loved alcohol and had been in the industry for over 10 years. So, what should I call you? Just call me Mirabelle. My friend becomes a handful when drunk. Tonight was no exception, and she got drunk quickly.
She always drinks this much.
Yeah, normally she's pretty responsible.
Exactly. And we're the same age, so you don't need to be nervous.
Got it, okay. That night, we bonded over my friend's drunken antics. I found our conversation enjoyable, so we exchanged numbers and decided to go out for drinks again. After that, we started going out regularly. I admired John's ambition and found it inspiring. I also enjoyed hearing about his dream. Wow. That's really cool. If you want, come by the bar sometime. That sounds fun. I wasn't a big drinker, but hearing him talk sparked my interest, and he taught me how to make simple cocktails at home. Soon enough, we started dating. I'm happy to be with you. Me too. After we started dating, I often visited John's hometown. He introduced me to various friends. Thanks to those connections, I even got some work opportunities. A lot of our customers are acquaintances. Really? Yeah, so when I have my own bar, I want my friends to come. I'm sure they will. I think my skills could help too. Oh, that's right. What was it again? Public relations. That's it. Sometimes I couldn't believe he didn't know certain things, but it was refreshing and fun because he didn't have people like that around him. A year after we started dating, he proposed to me. I promise to make you happy, Mirabelle. So please be with me. Yes. So, we got engaged, met each other's parents, and got married with the blessings of our friends and family. You two finally made it to marriage. I'm glad I introduced you. Yeah. I'm really grateful for that. If it weren't for you, we probably would have never met. Hearing that makes it all worth it. So, what about the wedding party? Actually, we're working on opening John's bar now. Does that mean he's getting his own bar? Yeah, something like that. That's amazing! But we're still deciding where to open it, so we'll have the party after that's settled. I see. But make sure to invite me. Of course. I really started to feel that I was married. We found a new place, and our newlywed life began. That's when John made a suggestion. I want you to help with the bar. Of course, I was planning on it. No, I want you to quit your current job and help full-time.
Quit my job.
Is that not okay? He looked at me with puppy dog eyes. My heart wavered.
Well, I need to talk to the company first. Give me some time. Got it.
After discussing with the company, I decided to quit, but since I had studied design, I continued working as a freelancer.
I'll miss having you at work, but there's nothing we can do about it.
I'm sorry for the sudden change.
We can still work together sometime. Let's do that.
So, I started working as a freelancer and helping John with the bar preparations. However, John was more optimistic than I imagined, and I often found myself dragged into his laid-back attitude.
How's the prep going? Is there anything I can do? Oh, we're still deciding on the location. It's taking longer than I thought. That's important, but there's still a lot to do. We should start with what we can.
I know. His carefree attitude made me worry if everything would be okay. Thinking there wasn't much I could do immediately, I started working from home. Then John said something unbelievable. Huh? Why are you at home? What about work?
What? I'm working, but I quit my old job, remember? Quit? Why? Why? You told me to. You wanted me to help with the bar.
Did I really say that? I couldn't believe my ears. Had he forgotten what he said himself?
Anyway, I'll be working from home now.
It had been about 2 weeks since I quit my job. John was still working as a bartender, but he didn't seem to be looking at any properties. At this rate, he'd never get his own place, so I started asking about his progress every day. However, if you're so worried, why don't you look for a place? I want to decide quickly too. I'm going to look at properties today.
Okay.
I decided to trust his words. John left around noon and came back after 11 p.m.
I'm home! Did you go drinking?
Yeah. I ran into a friend, so we went out for a drink. I didn't mind as long as he got his work done.
So, how did it go?
Huh?
You were supposed to look at places for the bar, remember?
Oh, sorry, I totally forgot. Seeing him laugh it off, I lost my patience.
If you're going to be like this, I'm not helping anymore. Do whatever you want. There's no need to get so mad.
From that moment, I stopped helping altogether. Even when John asked for advice, I would tell him I was too busy with my own work. After living like that for a while, John seemed to realize his mistake and started seriously looking for properties. A week later, he approached me.
I'm sorry for everything. I was out of line. I found a place. Can you take a look? All right.
I checked out the place John found, and it was actually quite nice.
It looks pretty good. Really? Yeah. Plus, it's a turnkey property.
Yeah, it used to be a bar. The previous owner left everything. This will help keep costs down. I hadn't expected him to think it through that much.
Great. Things are gonna get busy from here. Count on you to help.
From then on, everything went smoothly, almost like a dream. We remodeled the interior to John's taste, and with just a week left until the grand opening, we were ready.
We finally made it. But the hard part starts now. It'll be tough to attract customers at first. But I can reach out to my friends again. Of course, that's important. But we're farther from the old location, so we need to attract new customers.
Like promoting on social media?
Sure, but there's a lot more to do. Leave it to me.
Using my experience, I focused on marketing. I set up a website, invested in online ads, and kept myself busy. Finally, the opening day arrived.
Opening day? I'm really nervous. I'll come by to check on things.
When I arrived, the place was packed. But then I noticed someone. A cute person sitting at the counter, looking very close to John. What? What's going on? They seemed to be holding hands. No one else noticed, but I was sure. Then John noticed me.
You made it.
Yeah. It looks really busy. It's all thanks to you, Mirabelle. How about a drink to celebrate?
No, I just came to check on things.
All right. Anyway, thank you. Sure. Keep it up. I couldn't shake the feeling about that woman, and I didn't want to stay there any longer. Even at home, the unease didn't go away, and I couldn't sleep at all. John came home in the morning.
Hey, you're up. Yeah. Welcome back.
Man, it was really busy.
That's good. You seem down. What's up?
I decided to ask about what I saw at the bar.
Who was that girl you were talking to at the bar?
Huh?
It looked like you were holding hands. I guess it was just my imagination.
John dropped his phone.
You okay? Don't say weird things.
He was clearly shaken.
So, it was just my imagination? Of course. Don't say stupid stuff.
Now he was getting angry.
Does that mean I was right?
You're being a pain.
What?
I'm going to bed.
Wait.
Our relationship started going downhill from there. And we still had the wedding party to plan. We weren't talking much anymore when I got a call from my mom.
Hello?
Oh, Mirabelle? How are you doing over there?
Well, hanging in there. What's up?
I was just wondering about the party date.
I'm not sure yet.
Your dad's looking forward to it too.
Right. I'll talk to John about it.
Please do. After hanging up, I held my head in my hands. We can't have a wedding party with things like this. It had been a week with hardly any conversation. I wanted to have the party for my parents' sake, but it was impossible without resolving our issues. That's why I wanted to find a way to resolve it. While I was pondering this, John said he needed to talk and asked me to wait for him.
Sorry, I'm late.
It's okay.
What's up?
About the other day.
The other day? At the bar. I'm really sorry.
John bowed deeply in apology.
I was tired and said some terrible things. Looking back now, I realize I was wrong. But believe me, there's nothing going on like you thought.
Really?
Of course. So, please trust me.
At that moment, my desire to have the wedding party was so strong that I might not have seen the truth.
Okay. I believe you.
Thank you.
And my mom called, asking about the party. Right, we said we'd do it after the bar settled down. Let's start planning it soon.
After that, we started preparing for the party. I had always dreamed of wearing a wedding dress, so I chose 3 different ones. You picked some cute ones.
Really?
I can't wait to see them on the big day. We decided to invite only close family and a few friends, but John had a hard time deciding who to invite. Have you decided who to invite? There aren't many spots. Then John muttered under his breath.
I guess it's not a good idea to invite her. What?
Oh, nothing. I'll decide soon. In the end, John invited the people he initially planned to. After that, everything went smoothly until the day of the party.
Oh no! What? What's wrong?
But John was glued to his phone and didn't hear me.
Hey. Are you listening? We need to go now.
We were in the middle of the wedding party. But he ignored me, mumbling to himself. Irritated, I walked over to him.
Hey!
Just as I tried to take his phone, he shoved me away.
Let go!
I fell, landing on my rear.
Oh!
As I fell, I stepped on the hem of my dress, tearing it. This dress was custom designed after many consultations. I had been looking forward to this day so much. What on earth is he thinking? Then John's phone rang.
Hello!
I couldn't tell who he was talking to, but his face turned pale. When the call ended, John staggered over to the sofa and collapsed onto it.
What happened?
He opened his mouth with a dead look in his eyes.
She collapsed. Collapsed. Who? My ex. What?
I shouted so loudly it probably echoed through the whole venue.
Don't start yelling out of nowhere. This is serious.
This is serious? What is he talking about? Who is this in front of me? Isn't he supposed to be John? I can't understand why he'd prioritize his ex over me. To be honest, I don't care what happens to his ex. But looking at him, it seemed pretty serious.
What do I do? What's the right thing to do?
He's mumbling again.
Hey, we're running out of time.
He looked up, as if he had an idea.
That's right. We can get married anytime. What?
So let's cancel.
Yeah, that's the best thing.
I was so shocked I couldn't think for a moment. John started preparing something hastily.
Hey, you can't be serious.
Sorry. He apologized with his hands together. But it felt so insincere. I was just about to change into my new dress and show everyone.
All right. You tell everyone I'm leaving. What?
He didn't hear my protest and walked out of the room. A staff member came in just as he was leaving.
What just happened? My husband ran away. What?
Of course, they were shocked. And then, an idea struck me. If John is going to cancel, then I'll just cancel something of my own. Might as well drag the guests into my grand revenge. Just wait and see. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm really looking forward to it. When I returned to the venue, I spoke to the staff member who had seen John leave. This was to have her act as a witness.
I'm sorry. Can you help me with something? Oh, yes. If there's anything I can do. Just tell everyone that you saw my husband leave. Okay.
Then, I opened the door to the hall where my parents and friends were waiting. Everyone was shocked to see me alone. My mom stood up and walked over.
Why are you alone? Calm down, Mom. I'll explain everything. All right.
I took a deep breath and explained what had just happened to everyone.
This staff member saw John leave. Can you describe how he looked? He seemed really flustered. When we passed in the hallway, I think he muttered Sarah.
My friend gasped.
Could it be? Sarah? Do you know something? If I'm right, Sarah is someone who works under John.
I remembered the incident at the bar and decided to ask.
By any chance, does she visit John's bar?
I haven't heard anything like that, but it's possible.
Do you have a picture of her?
A recent one, I think. Let me check. My friend fiddled with her phone and then showed me a picture. It was definitely the girl I saw at the bar. She was at the bar.
Seriously?
Then my mom spoke up.
Can you explain a bit more? Oh, sorry.
I was so focused on the conversation with my friend that I didn't notice anyone else.
I think John is having an affair with his colleague, Sarah. An affair? Is that true?
I think it's very likely. Then an idea struck me. I'm going to call John right now. I went to get my phone and made the call, putting it on speaker so everyone could hear. Hello? Where are you right now?
I'm at Sarah's place. She said she collapsed, so I came over. It was a waste of time.
Really?
What? You're forgetting something important, aren't you?
Something important?
Today is our big day. I told you it's cancelled, didn't I? Then explain it to everyone yourself. What?
He really didn't get it.
A wedding party isn't just about me. There are people who are looking forward to today. And by the way, you're having an affair with Sarah, aren't you? I had it investigated. When did they find out? How did they know?
Of course, I hadn't had anything investigated. I only knew about Sarah because of my friend.
So, everyone, you heard that, right? Hey! Is someone else there? You're really clueless. Right now, I'm with our parents and friends. And I didn't have you investigated. Thanks for falling for it, though. What?
Then his mother walked up from the back.
What a terrible thing you've done, John. Is that you, Mom? I'm so ashamed to have such a foolish son.
Then his father chimed in.
You're no longer my son. Don't bother coming back. Did you hear that? Maybe you should just be with Sarah. Wait! It's too late for regrets. Goodbye. Hey!
Ignoring his protests, I hung up. What an idiot. I'm so sorry. His parents apologized together.
It's not your fault. What will you do now? I'm considering my options. I definitely can't stay with him anymore.
I went around apologizing to our friends who attended. John's friends even apologized on his behalf. Seeing their faces, I realized it would be hard to continue being friends with them. After that, I didn't go back to the home I shared with John. Instead, I returned to my parents' house. A week later, I got a call from the friend who introduced me to John.
What's up?
I'm really sorry about everything that happened.
Don't worry. I was the one who chose him in the end. Hearing that makes me feel a bit better. Anyway.
According to my friend, Sarah was indeed John's colleague. Apparently, she couldn't get over him and that's why she did what she did.
I see.
Was he really worth it?
Considering I introduced you to, I have no comment.
Well, that sounds like an answer.
I see. But that's not the point. She didn't actually collapse, did she?
I figured.
I had a feeling something was off. What are you going to do?
I have an idea. With my friend's help, I arranged a meeting with Sarah.
Nice to meet you, Sarah.
There's something I'd like to ask you.
Something to ask?
Don't worry. It's something that will benefit you too. I asked Sarah for a favor. After that, John found that not only his parents but also his friends began to distance themselves from him. The bar he managed was only staying afloat because of my involvement. When I pulled out, he had to give up the bar. This outcome was expected. I quickly started the divorce process. But I wasn't just going to divorce him. That day, I went to a lawyer's office. You'll need to pay for me.
What?
Of course. We canceled the wedding party and you caused this issue.
No way!
I couldn't believe how clueless he was. I sighed deeply. I used to find his naivety and stupidity endearing, but not anymore. Now, it's just annoying.
The bill will come later.
Make sure you pay it.
Hang on. Just wait for the bill.
I couldn't stand it anymore and hurried out of the office. This should make things better. I'm so exhausted. After that, John had to pay the bills, which made it hard for him to make ends meet. He started working part-time jobs, but kept getting fired because of his personality and bounced from job to job. John ended up selling his belongings to make ends meet. Naturally, he contacted me.
Hey!
How are things over there?
I'm doing fine.
He tried to sound cheerful, but I knew it was a front. I was getting updates from Sarah about his situation. I had put a condition for her.
What? I think this is a much better deal than paying hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Sarah seemed to hesitate. If you prefer to pay, that's fine. What will it be? Okay, then you'll be paying.
Goodbye.
I turned to leave.
Wait!
I turned back with a smirk. Yes?
I'll report John's actions to you.
Smart decision. Sign this agreement. To ensure Sarah wouldn't tell John, I had her sign a document agreeing to report on him. If she told him, I'd demand the cancellation fee. Either way, Sarah had no right to refuse. All right, spy. Looking forward to working with you. I'll never forget Sarah's expression as she signed the agreement. She's doing a great job so far. John had no idea about our arrangement.
Hey, are you listening?
His audacious tone was getting on my nerves.
You're not in a position to talk to me like that. Understand? Well, it's just that. You're having a hard time?
Don't make me laugh.
This is all your fault. Did you think I'd help you now? If so, you're incredibly mistaken.
John fell silent. Anyway, I'll never help you.
Why don't you ask Sarah for help?
That's not possible.
Oh, why not? Aren't you living together?
No, we decided to live separately just recently.
So, you broke up?
No, not exactly. I didn't know the reason, but it might have been a wise decision.
I see. That's how it is. What? What do you mean?
Who knows? John would probably ask Sarah about this, but it would be pointless. If he found out about our contract, she'd have to pay me. So, he would live in constant fear of me from now on.
I'm busy, so I'm hanging up. Wait.
No way.
Goodbye.
I felt no sympathy for John. He can live with his regrets. As for me, I started working at a company founded by a friend. The work environment is great, and I'm enjoying every day. I haven't felt this fulfilled in a long time. From now on, I want to live for myself and for the people who truly care about me.